because I hated the idea of calling each of these clients and saying, you know, it's really slow out there. And what I found was that if I take the whole year in the West Loop, I found that demand, or what I call demand, which was the number of contracts that had been written in the condo market through that point of the year versus the same point last year, was even. That made me feel good on my client's behalf. Like, demand was even. And this is after, we're in the election now. This is after protests and everything else, or when it's back. But I also found that the number of listings that came on the market this year in the West Loop was up. It was like 39 point something, almost 40%. And it was so nice to be able to say to clients, here's our problem. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a solution for that.
Yeah.
But Mark, to your point, and I think the thing that I learned going through that downturn, and well, you had to learn, was you just have to tell people, like, hey, this is a firestorm. Here's why it's happening. Here's how we protect ourselves as best we can. But I can't make the firestorm stop.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
I think what's helped for me this year is kind of preparing clients for what I thought was going to be a potential issue. Any condo buyer who started contacting me, over the summer and wanting to list their place, I kind of warn them. I'm like, okay, this is kind of what happened last year, and for me personally, last year it was like through like the end of the year, I just felt like June was really like, I had a ton of closings in May. And then if people started putting condos on the market in the fall and in the summer and the fall, it was like a completely different to what happened in the spring, like in January, February, and March. And I feel like that happened again this year. Mm-hmm. Just one of my, I have a, and I kind of tell people examples of what happened, specific examples, just so if it does happen to them, maybe they don't feel so bad that it happened to them. Like I had a condo that I put on the market the very beginning of February in Logan Square, like super awesome location in Logan Square, like right across from the monument. I sold that one. I probably had not even just sold it, but I had like 40 some groups come through within the first 2 weeks. And I didn't get multiple offers, but I sold it right away for $397,500. I have the exact same condo in the exact same building on the market right now. And it's been on the market for, I think we were on the market for 2.5 months. He tried to rent it, couldn't even rent it. I had to put it back on the market. And I have it on the market again. And I mean, it might be until, February until it sells again. Knock on wood, right? I mean, that's the story of 2020 is 3 months ago, it sold like that. Today, no one will touch it. No, I can't give it. I mean, I'm with you. And we're 10,000 less than the last comp in the building. Yeah.
Well, I think that for me, it's helpful to, just because I came from an analytical background, I was an actuary before, a very bad one, but an actuary regardless, was,
I was a bad engineer, so we're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah. When you fail at those, I guess you become a realtor. Like historically, at this time during any election, not just like this, one of the craziest elections ever, but in any election year, it's very slow in quarter 3. And then on top of that, we have a pandemic. And on top of that, it is seasonally slow. So, I think it's just clear communication. Yeah. I mean, yes, we can pull this data that says all these things, but it's just bringing it up and talking about it and having a conversation with the clients I tend to feel like that's what has been, I mean, it doesn't make anything better, but it gives them the understanding as to why things are not moving. People are distracted.
What the data can do is just give you a more specific point to talk from.
Yeah.
So, like most neighborhoods, you'll see that the, contract or the close price compared to the last list price is 98% or so, 97, 98. And what that tells you is you have to be pretty close to the market price if you're going to sell, right? If you overprice, it's not happening because on average it's going to be about 2%. That actually hits really hard with a lot of sellers. Say, you can try to overprice a little bit, but it's probably not going to work. And here's why. And if
Yeah.
you show them that 2% number, that gets people to really think about, oh yeah, I really need to be very on point with this price. And it does make a big difference these days. I think I've had a $400-something thousand condo that I dropped $10,000, and it was got a full price offer after dropping it $10,000, but had 25 showings before that with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think
that's
that
true.
specifics sometimes really do matter because buyers seem to be really picky about their price points now.
Yes. I'm actually interested in, Michelle, if you could tell us more about what you're seeing from buyers with rate questions. I think something just came out from the Federal Reserve today on rates, and wondering how that will affect mortgage rates, and how you've been kind of counseling buyers through the process of purchasing during a pandemic and job security and the new regulations that are in place, or I guess not regulations, so to speak, but the new process in place by lenders, most lenders having to, for instance, check verification of income within like 2 days of closing instead of 5 days out, which has changed it from my side, because obviously you don't want to waive a mortgage contingency until you know you're good for closing. So how has that affected you and buyers?
Yeah, so this year has been a challenge, but an incredible opportunity. I think all of us have a huge privilege to be in the home business right now, because we're making major impact. I mean, we are trusted advisors like never before, and just really helping families sort through transition and tough decisions. So I think, going along with Mark and Phil, I mean, my real foundation and how I've been approaching my advisory role has been educate and illustrate the same exact thing, and kind of just giving them the facts. The good news on my side from the financing equation is, rates are a point lower, a whole point lower than they were a year ago. So affordability is like 10% higher. So, my lead-in really in the very beginning, strategy call, knowing what you all are facing, especially if I'm dealing with, obviously I've been serving the downtown Chicago market primarily for over 20 years, although my clients have, since expanded into the burbs and other states, but, still my core is downtown, and, it's condos are a challenge, so when I'm illustrating, helping them process and think through how are they going to make this next move and transition, because it's inevitable, like their lives have changed, both spouses are now working in the house, they may continue to do that, need more space. So just really helping them process, I'll ask them like, well, what is your realtor saying that they think is a realistic value that you can get for your home? And then I actually take that down like 30 grand. I'm like, okay, well, that's perfect. That's an ideal world. I want to show you an illustration, even if you can't hit the optimal mark, if you do have to even take a little bit less, for your sale, that you can still do this. And so it's helping them process, and they feel safe. Like, if the realtor calls and, and makes a suggestion, we should really drop the price, that they feel like they can still do it. And it may not be that they can put 20% down on the new home, but they can still do 5 or 10%, and just show them from a payment perspective that they can still do that. Just because, again, there's reasons they're making these life transitions. So, and, just overall, I feel that my industry, I think the biggest challenge for me right now in frustration is with self-employment folks. Fannie and Freddie, along with our just all jumbo investors, have added some extra overlays with self-employed with COVID. But we've also seen a lot of efficiency enhancements. I mean, Fannie and Freddie, rolled out, again, desktop appraisals. So, if we had a problem getting into a home, that we can, we have alternative solutions. Just again, with all of the automation with closings, my clients can now DocuSign the majority of their packages. So there's been some, really positive things too. But overall, I think from the financing perspective, it's just being able to encourage clients that, hey, even if you're taking a little bit less on your sale, so that you can make that transition and make a good move for your family, your net is still good, because your new payment is a lot more affordable than it would have been a year ago. So.
Yeah, makes sense.
I have a question for George. What are you seeing? What is like the I guess, trends of renovations right now? Are people focused on a certain area of their house, or what are they looking to do?
So it's been a really interesting year. The fact that people have been at home, all those things that were bothering them during the times, now is the time that they want to address them. So we're seeing a lot of people that buy homes, they want to update them, but we're also seeing a lot of people that were stuck at home and they were not enjoying as much as their kitchens or their bathrooms. They're getting those things redone to enjoy it as they spend more time at home. So, like we're doing a lot of stuff like in the backyard since majority of the people are stuck at home. We're seeing a lot of basements and a lot of things to get them to enjoy their time in their homes.
Has it been busy in that way, business-wise, for you, George? Like, did the year? I mean, we all know that the whole year is just a complete roller coaster, month to month. But I mean, if you smooth it all out, did the year end up being more busy or the same? Like, what's the difference for you?
So it was busier because of the challenges this year brought. We'll have to look into alternative ways of doing things. Like there were shortages of wood at one point. You had to tell your people that you were waiting on cabinets. Go to the lumber store. There's no 2x4s. So it's been interesting that way. But it's been really busy. Really busy year.
More than you would have expected in a normal year, you think?
More than I expected with the pandemic, especially.
Okay.
How, going off what George just said, Michelle, how are renovation loans working right now? I've heard from a few clients that wanted to do jumbo renovation loans, and I've heard those may or may not be in existence right now. Are you able to tell us anything?
So sorry, you broke up on me. Were you asking about financing?
Yeah, about kind of going off of what George was saying with renovations. I've had a few clients who were thinking of purchasing and doing like full property renovation, and they needed a jumbo loan, but also it being a renovation loan. And I've heard that those are not really in the works right now. Is that still the case, or has that changed?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways that you can finance the renovation. So the jumbo space has definitely got a little beat up with COVID, although really great. I mean, I've been very pleased. Like we've had investors bring back, like I just got an interest only product that I lost during COVID. And the rates have really snapped back in the jumbo space. Renovation is definitely a higher risk product. There's still banks out there doing it. But there's also a lot of different creative ways that you can avoid staying out of jumbo too. So just in general, but it is interesting. I thought George was gonna say, your business is like doubled and you've got a year wait list, because I've definitely, that's those conversations I'm having. It's like, am I gonna stay put and make my existing space more feasible for my family, or am I gonna transition out? So it's definitely been, just a hot topic.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, the other agents can chime in, but I feel a lot of my clients are, in lieu of renovation, they're looking for a larger space. But that's also because, I'm one of the crazy people that has 3 kids. Andy and I are in the same boat with many kids. So we need large spaces. Am I the only one where I'm working with like people just getting much larger homes? Or what do you guys see?
I have the same thing. People in the city this year, I was shocked at some of my clients that I've known for years that decided to move out. People that already had big homes that moved into bigger homes, but suburban homes.
Yeah.
And then I have condo buyers that moved up. And there was times, Amy, to your point, where I was surprised because I thought, oh, you guys are doing pretty good. Like you have a pretty good setup. But I think everybody felt that squeeze,
Yeah.
no matter what size your home was. But yeah, I have the same experience, Amy, that you do.
I've had so many buyers looking for an extra bedroom, they need balcony space, outdoor space, rooftop space. So many buyers that just want top floor duplex ups because they want that rooftop space. So those have been kind of going fast and trying to find them and find the right one. But now there's a lot on the market, so that's good. And a lot of buyers that are looking now in the suburbs.
Yeah, that's totally true. I don't know if many people don't know this, but I actually live, I'm in my house right now, like everyone else, but I live in the west suburbs. I live in Hinsdale. 70% of my business is in the city, and then 30% is out in the west suburbs. And, we were always kind of that ratio for a very long time. I know we never wanted to give up our city business, but it's really been, interesting, the transition and I guess the want to be in the suburbs, where I think people before were kicking and screaming to be in the suburbs. People really want to be in the suburbs now.
Yeah,
so it's kind of a just to see that, it's really interesting, the change, the adjustment.
That emotional shift has been wild to see, because my clients that have been diehard, just downtown city folks, like, don't make me go to the, get the minivan. Don't make me, like, they were like squeezing 3 children in a 2-bedroom. And, it's interesting. And the ones that normally, like, I think I would get they'd stay another 3 years in the city. They're like, we're out, so it's a very interesting time.
Yeah. I don't do a ton of business in the Loop, the River North, or like West or South Loop, but for the agents that do, I mean, what are you guys, like anticipating for next year in those areas? I mean, with just like the huge number of volumes in those, big buildings.
Yeah, it's pretty tough right now. So the rental, so typically, we will adjust the price to a point where there will be a point where I say, I don't think you should adjust anymore. We have to consider the option of renting. And even that is extremely, something that we just rented last year for $2,700, we had to reduce down to $2,400 or $2,300. That's a huge reduction, and really affects the bottom line for the client. So and when we talk about people going to the suburbs, I always suggest other neighborhoods in the city, because I don't want nobody wants Chicago to be a ghost town. We don't want River North to be a ghost town, Just remember, this pandemic is like, it's not forever. Hopefully the max will be another 12 months. So where do you want to be for 5 years? Not just for this 1 year that this is affecting all our lives.
You guys
Survi, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Have you guys had any conversations with different HOA, like boards and management companies, about the rental restrictions? Because that's been a lot of issues with buyers that want to get out of condos that can't rent their unit, or even investors that are looking to purchase right now, because it's actually a good time to buy for an investment, but they can't because the rental restrictions have already been maxed out.
So I've actually had this come up with a client who was selling down in the Loop area. She was trying to sell, but it wasn't going to work out at her price point. It was just too high, and the protests were going on right in front of her building, things like that at the time, because this was a few months back now. And her building didn't allow any rentals, and we actually had to legally fight for her to be able, because she was moving out of state for a job. So we had to fight an association in order to get her the rent. And I've actually seen that happen on quite a few different buildings where they're loosening their requirements. It basically takes getting the board together and either asking for a singular exception for the one client, or going to the board and saying, look, here's the situation, we need to change. Like, would you guys propose a change to the rental restrictions that are already in place? Most buildings that I see percentage, so they've been able to work with it. But I was actually, to go off of what Survi was saying though, it's interesting with investors. Have you guys found that your investor clients want to continue purchasing? Or I've seen the opposite. I've seen where investors are wanting to sell right now and just be done with it because of all the rental laws and benefiting the tenants more. And because of that, they're able to continue to keep collecting rents for those tenants who may have lost their jobs or gotten sick, things like that. So I've actually seen that kind of opposite.
In condos, I think for sure. I mean, Survi, to your point too, I don't think there's ever been a good list, not a good list, enough or buildings in Chicago that have loose enough rules that it didn't feel like, you know, the risk was worth taking on. Katrina, it's funny you bring up that, you know, you guys went to the board. I've always wondered, probably not a discussion point for today, but I've always wondered why there hasn't been litigation against homeowners associations. And I really have a curiosity about it because, you know, I have friends that live in New York City and they live in buildings where there's $50 million units and people rent their places out all the time with no trouble. And this feels like a thing in Chicago sometimes that holds us back a bit. But again, probably a topic for a different day. The question earlier, Michelle, I think you asked it originally about Streeterville and Gold Coast and downtown and River North. I had a couple listings at the same time in the Gold Coast during the protest, 3 actually. I sold one of them. We actually closed last week, and my client was so funny because she second guessed taking her offer. After we closed, she didn't second guess anymore, but I mean, it was to get that thing sold. Millie Rosenblum sent me a note and was like, "How did that unit?" And I was like, "I don't know how I sold it. Like we feel like we got lucky. That market is not nobody. A much smaller number of people are shopping down there than were a year ago at this time. And you can actually see it in the numbers as well."
Mm-hmm. I try to tell people that this is a fantastic time to buy if you always were ever considering to live in the Gold Coast. You know, again, this pandemic is not going to last forever. But yeah, it's extremely hard right now. The Gold Coast, South Loop, West Loop, River North area. You know, I am trying to have my clients, the ones that are owner occupied, I just have to say that you have to stay there at least until February. And
you say February, Amy, because I say like February 1st, like so many questions.
Yeah, February.
But one of my worries, I shouldn't say worries because I mean we can sell in any market, but I mean when I talk about owners wanting to sell, is I'm just dying to see what happens to inventory, maybe even starting like 2 weeks from today. Like, you know, do these sellers that have been waiting, and some of the buyers too, but I'm very curious to see what our ratio of supply and demand looks like by the time we get to say April 1st next year. And it feels impossible to predict right now.
Oh,
like most years.
Impossible. Totally. I mean, I'm taking listing presentations. I have like any photo shoots or anything that I have going on. I am not making them live. I will be putting them on the pocket market. At least the earliest I will put them on the market is January 2021. I'm only taking the photos, so you know it's beautiful weather. You know, it's like I won't have snow in the pictures, but I am not making any new listings going forward unless they're vacant. But if they're owner occupied, they just have. I am advising that they have to wait because it's just too slow right now. There's too much inventory. So you're competing, not going to be happy with the price that you're going to get. I mean, yes, maybe there still will be more inventory, but my hope is that just like how when we went out of the first quarantine, you know, everybody saw this opportunity. Hopefully people will see the opportunity to buy. And hopefully we'll get that like round of first time home buyers, you know, to kind of revitalize the condo market again. I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you guys are, it sounds like Phil and Amy are saying you're waiting for listings to put them on until early next year. I've heard from a lot of clients that are being told to list at a lower price so that it causes multiple offer situation and bids it up. Are you seeing a lot of that happen at all, or just basically avoiding?
I would think that that'd be a very dangerous game to play in.
There's no guarantee. Yeah, there's no guarantee. You could sit on the market and then not be happy with your price to begin with. But I mean, I just listed something. We actually did get 3 offers on it. But it just depends on the situation, you know, like every other neighborhood I think is doing pretty well. You know, this happened to be in Lincoln Square, you know, and there was people who were buying it sight unseen and they just had their agent FaceTime. So but yeah, the Streeterville, River North, South Loop, West Loop, I personally am waiting till next year to list them.
That makes sense. Just interesting.
Have you seen?
I'm advising Katrina, not, you know, I advise, I'm probably like Amy, I'm sure we don't dictate per se. Yeah, I'm asking people to think about 2021 as a starting point.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I wasn't sure what to expect myself. Obviously, from the attorney's end, I'm always about a month or two behind where you guys are as agents with listings, because I don't get the contract until it's executed, and then the closing is usually a month or two out. So it's just thing to hear.
Well, it just depends. Like Michelle had made a good point, yeah, maybe you weren't happy with your price on the buy side, but you're going to be able to get into a home at a fantastic rate, and here's your number. So it goes both ways. If you take a hit on your buy, but you're able to make it up on your sale, like maybe that's a great opportunity. So it's just a case-by-case basis, really.
Makes sense.
It really is case by case. Like everyone's scenarios are different, and families are thinking about schools. So it's like, and that's just it. And what I do find is, families have budgets and they buy payment, right? So it's like you just have to show them and paint the picture that even if you have to take 25 grand less on the condo, but just be done with it and just get out. Then you can get your kids in that school that you really wanted, or the backyard that they really need, because they're getting older. So. It is. Have you all though seen, so Survi, I know you said like the top floor, do you feel that still like our, obviously, center downtown, River North, high rises, are you seeing at least like say our, I call them our 3 flat walk-ups, are you seeing the outer perimeter, Wicker Park and Bucktown and everything still moving okay, just because again you don't have the high rise, you don't need to get in the elevator? Do you find that market, if you just isolate our Chicago condo market? I'm just curious about that.
I honestly think that the high rise buildings, elevators where it takes somebody a half an hour to get out of their building is just, and they let 3 or 4 elevators go because there's already 3 people in them, and they have limited number of people that can get inside. They can't use the amenities that they're paying for. A lot of those things are creating much smaller boutique buildings that they're interested in. 3 unit walk-ups are okay now. They're okay with it because they'd much rather just be able to walk down the stairs or walk down the back stairs to get away from people. It'd be a yard in their complex, or any type of rooftop outdoor space. It's so needed. And that extra bedroom, because now everyone's working from home, so they need 2 different.
Your inventory is moving more than one of those, like the 3 flat walk-ups and a high rise for sure. I'm just curious.
I haven't seen
definitely.
Yeah.
Especially, I found it really easy to sell in Logan Square, Ravenswood, places where there is some more space and green space. And it's a little more low key. It's not exactly the suburbs, but there's some of the advantages that you think of in the suburbs are still there.
Yeah,
and so those things are actually pretty easy to sell.
Yeah. Porter's Park, those areas are seeing a lot of activity. So
I know our little bungalow, they all of a sudden, like it just seems like that's where I'm seeing a lot of contracts come across my desk in the little outlier Chicago, neighborhood. So
yeah, it's well, I love Sauganash. My twin sister lives there, but it's like a great, you're still in the city limits, and I mean just that whole area, just Sauganash, Porter's Park, Jefferson Park, and you still city limits, but you still have that suburb feel, which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean the thing that's confusing a little bit is, Michelle, to answer your question, I mean, I as I look at neighborhoods getting ready for listings or advising clients or whatever, it's just, again, if you spread the icing out over the cake for the whole year and you look at the whole year to date, the number of buyers buying generally in the Northside neighborhoods in the condo market are the same as they were last year. It just is that there's more sellers that want to sell.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm hoping for is that demand stays consistent rolling into 2021. I think we're going to have a supply side issue. Who knows? It just seems like, Amy, you do a lot of business. Mark, you do a lot of business. Everybody here does a lot of business in Survi. You're with buyers, I'm sure, all the time. And I'm same with you. I would assume that your lead list of sellers is longer than your lead list of buyers. Mine certainly is. It doesn't mean I don't have buyers. It just means I have double and triple the number of people that have reached out about selling.
have way more this year. I would say I normally have a little bit more buyers than sellers on a yearly basis. This year it was almost, I don't want to say almost all sellers, but primarily sellers. And the buyers that I had, they bought in the suburbs, like Oak Park. I sold a couple houses in Oak Park, Palos, the Palos area. So very few city buyers this year. The majority of my clients have been sellers this year, which again is not typical for me.
Yeah.
I have 50-50. I think I didn't do my stats for 2020 yet, but I would say it was surprisingly, it was still 50-50 because I don't know what I'm doing in my marketing, but I seem to get a lot of first-time home buyers. And their interest is still the same. Like it hasn't been any different than 10 years ago, really, which I've actually found surprising. I think it just depends on how secure they are in their career and in their job. A lot of them tend to be referrals that are like in the medical field or like attorneys, so I think it just, I think it just depends on the clients that you're servicing. But I hope that we don't have a lot of inventory, but I do see that possibility in 2021 for sure.
Yeah.
So,
in the city, I think for sure I'm talking. I mean, that's my market.
Yeah,
in the suburbs. The suburbs seems like it's a forest fire. Yeah.
And it's the craziest thing. These crazy price points are flying off the market. So it's I'm
moving to Hinsdale.
Well, I mean, you have an easy pivot, to doing more birds.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been because again, I love Chicago and I love Chicago real estate. Honestly, it's totally different to do suburbs, whether it's Hinsdale or whatever, but to do suburbs versus city. So when I moved out here, I actually loved the difference of it because doing this business for so long, it was nice to kind of have a change. But yeah, it's like you feel the need that people want to be out there. But I do think that's going to change. I think people are going to want to be back in the city, after all of this too. So I always try to say that to people that, what do you want in 5 years? Not just what do you want right now? And then hopefully we can find the right place for them.
I got a question for everybody because I guess it hasn't really been asked directly, but it's kind of a underlying theme. What are people doing to just manage client expectations during this time? I mean, or anything specific? Because we're heading into the cold. It's still nice out, as I say this, and it's 65 degrees outside right now. Going into the cold season, like what are you guys doing to manage expectations? And this is for everybody,
I would say just be honest as you can about what's how things are going with the market in their area. Especially if they're sellers. Just I would say be as honest as possible. It's all you can do, really.
Amy earlier said, pointing out and bringing it up. I mean, the number of times this year that I've said, look, we're dealing with COVID, quarantine, presidential election that's, hotly contested and divisive. And these things are affecting and unemployment. Unemployment's another thing that I brought up. And we spiked to almost 20% unemployment for a little while. It's come down now. But those things affect the real estate market. And that's been those topics, and just saying them is a good reset. And Amy, you kind of alluded to that earlier. Sometimes if you just kind of go, look, COVID, election, stock market, unemployment, like this isn't just you have the most beautiful house in the world and everybody wants to buy it. It's just not that simple.
I could
Something
see
like that, Andy.
I could see you doing that, Phil, on an appointment. I could see you doing that. Not even a full sentence.
It almost is that verbatim. Sometimes you have to grab them and go, look, look at the news for 1 minute. This is not, we don't sell homes in a vacuum. So
Mark, what are your thoughts, man, on that?
Yeah, really similar. The toughest house I've had to sell this year is actually the nicest house. So, it's a house that's at a price point that's really difficult in a particular market where they're just not moving, and so when one house sells, like within a mile, when one house like it sells every, 1.5 months and there's 12 of them out there, it's going to take a while, right? So that's the main thing. Just the way I'm setting expectations is just telling people, here's what the market really is, and showing, here's your competition, here's how many actually sell on it, and even if your house is really nice, unless you're the best price one, you're probably not going to go for a while. And even you can be well priced and it can still take a while because the velocity is not there for things to get off the market. And then also at the election, I saw a number that said, during the election, average transactions is kind of nationwide are down about 20-25%. But then the following spring, they're up. There's like a corresponding bump in the following spring. The springs are more active than you would expect. And I just tell people that, say, you can try to sell now. What we've seen in the past, you can have a better chance in the spring. So odds are you want to wait for spring, and probably some other things will get better, during that time too. And if no one has a crystal ball, but that's going to be your best bet.
I'm trying to entice my buyers right now because I'm like, it's December.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I was like, nobody else is looking right now. This is when you should buy a house.
You have lots on the market. Like, why not? And open their minds to some different areas. Maybe they'll get the more space that they're looking for that are a little outer of, either north or west from what they're looking for. So hopefully they'll find.
I totally agree. Yeah, I feel like I'm almost done with a lot of the buyers I'm working with right now in terms of that they found, like, we put them under contract because I think that they understand, hey, the interest rates are so crazy low right now that yes, it's super insane in the spring. So let's not compete with that. And, these sellers are pretty motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, Anna.
Sorry, he's screaming.
Oh, it's okay.
This is the authenticity of the world we live in. So we appreciate it, Anna. Thanks for hopping on. Thanks for your
My baby
insights.
just woke up too, but
Yeah.
our nanny's here.
Well, you guys, my kids are all good. Oh, wait a minute. I'm just kidding.
Mine was like having a tantrum pretty much for 45 minutes.
Oh, we didn't even hear it at all.
I can't hear it at all.
That's pretty good, Survi. Yeah, you can really focus.
She had to take him out. She had to take him out of the house, so no nap.
Oh.
Yeah, and we're I was gonna say we're like a few minutes out anyway. So if anybody has, I think this is a good pausing point, or if anybody has any final thoughts, like I want to be respectful of course everybody's time. If you wait till 3:00 and then ask for final thoughts, then it goes till 3:08.
Well, can I have a question?
No,
so
please.
It seems like a lot of us have, distractions at home. What is like your one thing that's been helpful to continue to work? Because I'm always looking to improve.
I love it. That's a great question. I will speak last on that.
For me, I've been putting myself on like a very regimented schedule for like when I take a break, learning how to take breaks, because I've worked from home. So I don't think I said at the beginning, I've been doing solely real estate law for 7 years now. But before that, I was in divorce law. So I was obviously in court and everything like that, and in an actual office. And ever since I switched over to real estate, I do have my office, but I spend most of my days working from home. And one of the most important things is learning to step away at a certain point, because otherwise I tend to work from like the moment I get up until I'm going to bed. And that's obviously not a healthy work-life balance, so to speak. So for me, the biggest thing with this year is like really putting myself on a schedule, telling myself to take a break, to go take a walk or do something like that. And that's actually been really helpful, and something that I think I'm going to take from this year and be able to implement for years going forward.
That's great.
Did you guys go into your offices before the pandemic, or most of you do most of your work from home?
I went into my office.
So did I. I'm the worst. This has been the hardest year mentally for me, probably of my career, because I am such a normally regimented. The pandemic, the quarantine, or I should say the shelter in place, threw me for a loop. I'm probably still recovering from it, to be honest. Like, I'm very focused on getting my head together for 2021 because, and it was a fine year, but I mean, Amy, I wish I had a good strategy for you because mine is like stress eating, ice cream, maybe potato chips. That's how I deal with it. Sleep, depression, yelling at the sky. I mean, a very, I have a piano back here. I pound on that sometimes. I mean, it hasn't been great, to be honest, for me. Katrina, I'd love to get a piece of that, good routine because I need that again in my life.
I signed up for a half marathon, so it's kind of like forcing me to
that's cool.
put something in my schedule that's good for you and allow you to have some time to yourself to gather your thoughts. And just by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to run a half marathon," now I have to do it, right? I can't.
Oh, it's official now.
Making that public, you got to do it.
Yeah,
Hey,
when
Mark.
I did half marathons, that's what you have to say it out loud. Then you can't like.
We're on
just
Facebook Live. I mean, there's thousands of people watching.
Everyone expects me to do it.
I'm gonna do it. The viewings right now is like 1.2 M. I don't know what the M means, but that's what it says. It's just maybe these are more popular than I thought.
It's crazy.
I want to give everybody an opportunity to go, just because we're about a couple minutes out here. So. Mark, man, maybe I'll see on my. There was a listing Mark had on like Kedzie, and I jogged by one of his listings. I'll try to jog at least 2-3 times a week. So maybe I'll see you out there, man. Who else has not gone? Survi, George, Michelle. Anything you guys are doing to keep sane and just
I've been working out of my car sometimes just to get out of the house.
That's always good.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Groceries. Work in my car for a little bit, try and just to get out of my house where my husband works from home and my son is now home with a nanny full time. So it's madness.
Unfortunately, I still haven't figured out a way to work from home, so I'm still out and about.
That makes sense.
Your job, that would be
kind of impossible.
Yeah.
I think for me, just non-negotiable, figuring out a way to squeeze in my exercise. I found a new trainer right when COVID hit, and then we're like, all right, let's do virtual, So I've been doing it, and now it's great because I'm like, I save a half hour going to the gym, a half hour going back, whatever. I can wear like, I don't know, the socks from yesterday because no one knows. I just throw my workout clothes back. I don't know. So there you go.
That's good. Well, we will. I'll say mine is with 4 kids. My wife and I literally had to it was causing friction early on. So I'd be like the first 2-3 weeks, she's like, you can't be like huddled in our office basement all the time. I mean, in a good way, and rightly so, because as most of you guys know and who have met her at events, she helps run the show too. And so we just agreed, hey, Mondays and Wednesdays she's on with kids. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. I'm doing stuff like this, and it's worked out pretty well. But so Katrina, to your point, you just got to work it out. So if you email me like on a Monday or a Wednesday, it'll be a little bit delayed response, and then they all pile up, and you'll probably get a flood of responses, on Thursday. So I think it's a good stopping point. I'm going to be respectful of everybody's time, so I'm going to cut the live feed right now. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of the year and great start to 2021.
Yeah, live feed is off. We're not on Facebook anymore. So just, from me to you guys, thank you so much for engaging. You know the drill. If you want to get on another one of these, I think we are actually booked out of these until January currently. So, January, February, we can queue them up. We can shuffle the deck, get some different realtors, different partners on. But I wish everybody a productive rest of the day. Lean on us.
Thanks, everyone.
And enjoy the nice weather, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.
We'll talk to you soon. Adios.